Welcome, family, to another edition of Stranger Thinking Media, where we address the problems of a modern world. So stay tuned. Today's topic: are you ready to be drafted? Operation Mayhem World War III. Let's get into it. The best job I ever had, that's from that movie Fury. I just love that line. But Operation Mayhem World War III. Topics covered. Topic 1, the draft is back with a vengeance, putting their money where their mouth is and landmines in the bill. Welcome to our channel. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And kick back and enjoy the show. The greatest glory in living is not never failing, but rising every time we fall. Putting our young men and women in harm's way. Matthew chapter 24, verse 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And knew not until the flood came and took them all away. This is Matthew. This is talking about end times prophecy. And that's what we do here. The draft is back with a vengeance. Check it out.
The U.S. military draft. Yesterday, June the 14th, 2024, the House of Representatives passed a defense bill that will automatically register young men ages 18 through 26 for the U.S. draft. So if you or somebody you know is between those ages of 18 and 26, men or women, we're going to be covering that in this video as well. You're probably going to want to see this video. I'm going to be covering the details for you of what it was that unfolded. And I've actually been sharing this with you for quite some time, as we heard back in November that there were rumors that the U.S. draft would need to come back. And that was because we had heard that if we were to enter into a war, or right now potentially World War III, that we currently have 1/10 of the reserves that we had over 50 years ago when we had the last draft in place. And currently in 2023, numbers have come out that the U.S. Army has had a shortfall of its goals by 23%. The U.S. Navy has had a shortfall of 20%. The U.S. Air Force of 10%. And the U.S. Marines are the only ones that have met their goals for recruits. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned, this is 1/10 of what it was just 50 years ago. So we're going to be discussing what it was that passed yesterday in the House of Representatives, and also why this is unfolding. Now, in addition to that, just for clarification, this passed in the House of Representatives. We're hearing that this is going to be going on to the Senate, where they're saying this will likely be not passing in the Senate. However, not because of the measure for the automatic registration for the draft, but because of other items that are included in the bill. But that means that if this does not pass because of these other items, that it sounds like Congress is on board and saying that we need a draft to be initiated as we are approaching what appears to be conflict with the United States and other nations.
So here you have it. These forever wars, here we go again. So, everybody just be ready. And this is very serious business because, some of us are old enough to remember the Vietnam War, and, the draft was a big thing. And everybody was trying to figure out a way around it if you were of that age. So the draft is never a popular thing. It's something that at different times is needed for the defense of the country, but it's not going to be comfortable if you're between the ages of 18 and 26. And now women have to think about it. All things being equal, the draft is going to affect young women too. And war is no joke. It's not something that we should want to engage in, but let's look at Genesis chapter 6 real quick, verse 13. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So, prophetic utterances pertaining to the end times. And I mean, if you just look around, you can feel it. We're just at the end of something here. You can call it end of a cycle, end of an age, age of Aquarius, whatever you want to call it, but something is changing. And there's like a rush to bring it to its culmination. So, just keep your eyes open, stay vigilant, because this this is serious business. The Selective Service, that means they see something coming, and so they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're gonna, fund
This article coming out
thing.
just yesterday evening says the House passed the defense bill that will automatically register men ages 18 through 26 for the U.S. draft. It says the House of Representatives passed a measure on Friday that automatically registered men ages 18 through 26 for selective services. It was part of the annual National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, which sets out the U.S. government's military and national security priorities over the next fiscal year. This year's DAA authorized $895.2 billion in military spending, a $9 billion increase from fiscal year 2024. While it hasn't been invoked in over half a century, it's mandatory for all male U.S. citizens to register for the selective services, also known as the military draft, when they turn 18 years of age. And failure to register classifies as a felony and comes with a host of legal challenges. Supporters of the amendment argue that it would cut down on bureaucratic red tape and help U.S. citizens avoid unnecessary legal issues, as well as cutting down on taxpayer dollars going towards prosecuting those cases of those not registering. It was led by Representative Chrissy Holohan of Pennsylvania and passed in the House Armed Services Committee's version of the NDAA in May. Now, the NDAA advanced through the committee in an overwhelming vote of 57-1. Now, here is what she had to say. By using the available federal database, the Selective Service Agency will be able to register all of the individuals required and thus help ensure that any future military draft is fair and equitable, she said during the debate last month, according to Defense News. She also said this will also allow us to rededicate resources. Basically, that means money towards readiness and towards mobilization.
So, you wonder why, and I mentioned this to someone before, and they looked at me incredulously. It's just weird that, all these migrants are crossing the border at this time, and it seems like the federal government is just allowing it to happen. They're like almost welcoming them in, like, come on over the border, come on over the border. So I said to this young man, I said, you realize why this is happening? Now, this is just me talking. I have no proof of this. But what I'm saying is, it just lines up really well that, 1 million people cross the border illegally, and they're pushing to essentially get them in the system. Why would they want to rush to get the, illegal immigrants into the system? Well, if you get them into the system, then they also become eligible for the draft. And he kind of looked at me like, that's not why they're let them come over the border. And I was like, well, you're kind of right. It's also cheap labor, because somebody's got to put your roof on when it starts to leak. And, a lot of Americans are more into video games and YouTube and, all right, I said it. Yeah. More into computer type stuff, in a high tech world. But when your roof leaks, who's gonna repair it? That's hard work. And it's not a lot of pay if you're a laborer, And I was watching the guys who replaced my roof fairly recently. It was 110 degrees, and they were up there on that roof, man, all day. I was just blown away. These were supermen. These are the guys who should be making 7-figure salaries. That's what I was thinking. But so there's a method to the madness. We'll get into it a little more, maybe in another video. But yeah, if you rush to get the illegal immigrant population into the system, then yeah, they become eligible for the draft. And then maybe when it's all said and done, you'd be thinking, thank God they did that. You know what I'm saying? it dilutes or it lessens the chance that you get drafted if the pool is big enough. And to be honest with you, the American youth, they're not what they were. The millennials, and they're just not and they were raised a certain way. They're not a fighting group. But I can tell you this: if you're coming from a third world country seeking opportunity, and you're ready to prove yourself, you're ready to work hard because you were working hard in that third world country just to survive. Yeah, you put some khakis on that guy, a helmet, give him a rifle. You got a machine there. And there's something more to be said about that because it just reminds me of that movie Gangs of New York, where the Irish came across, and the Irish are very rough. And what ended up happening, they had gangs from Ireland, and they rekindled their rivalries in New York City. And what ended up happening, and this is historical, it's a great movie if you've never seen it. They basically raised Cain in New York City. They actually took over the entire city, at least Lower Manhattan. But New York City was basically Lower Manhattan at that time. So they took it over, and Lincoln, if memory serves, Lincoln had to send in federal troops to get control of New York City again. So if you really looked at what Lincoln did, they put down that rebellion with extreme prejudice. The federal troops came in, they went door to door. Civil rights went out the window on that one, and they were taking people out in their homes just because, they chase them in their homes. They kick the door in and come after him and his family. You know what I'm saying? They squashed it. They squashed it hard. So anyway, what happens after that, you realized, this is just prior to the outset of the Civil War. These Irish are some fighting men. These guys can fight. I mean, they're some fighting dudes. So Civil War is about to break out, and they made the Irish an offer. They said, "You know what? You guys, we're gonna do you a favor. We're gonna give you, 3 square meals, 3 hots and a cot. We're gonna give you a nice, clean, fancy uniform. We're gonna give you a rifle, and we're gonna give you a respectable job just to get you off these streets." And what a lot of people don't realize is that the Union Army had a huge Irish population. That was the way Lincoln solved a couple problems. You got these new immigrants coming in. All right, you got to get them into the system. You got to get acclimated to American life. You want to give them a valued position in society. Well, the military is that. And so a lot of these young men signed up. And so the immigration from Ireland was nonstop. So effectively, what Lincoln had at his disposal was a man pool, an unlimited supply of young fighting age men. Come on over, bring some more over from Ireland, bring them over. And if you've ever driven that corridor, the I-95, especially the I-85 interstate, you look at the names of the southern towns, like Kilmarnock, North Carolina. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a lot of there's a lot of towns with Irish names. Because if you think about it, these people were immigrating to New York City, and they all squashed into Lower Manhattan by the hundreds of thousands and even millions. And, the young men with nothing, in a bad situation, nothing to do. They start fighting, start mayhem. Lincoln said, well, let's focus that energy. And they sent them south, and these young Irishmen kicked some butt. That's just part of the story. But that's something a lot of people don't know. And also in New York City, the ones that came back from war, since they're coming back, what kind of job do you think they gave the Irish, especially the military guys coming back from the Civil War in New York City? If you notice, You had what they called the paddy wagon, you know. So basically, the Irish became the cops because they'd become militarized. They had a militarized mindset, and they made perfect cops. And so, you know, that's where that kind of stereotype comes in, Officer Murphy kind of thing. So that's all part of the history and heritage of the Civil War. That's what comes about. So they no longer had to be illegal gangs on the street. Now they were part of a legal gang called the police. So that's what happened there. So we're going to continue. Second Ezra chapter 13, verse 3. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong, talking about the Messiah, with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. So people, you know, Second Ezra is part of the Apocrypha. People are like, oh, I don't like the Apocrypha, but no, this is Ezra of the Bible. He's called Esdras in the Apocrypha. Landmines in the bill. So we're going to talk about the bill.
That if we get into a conflict, they can just simply draft you out. No need to chase people down. No need to spend money on legal issues, prosecuting people. Just have everybody automatically drafted and ready. Now, the NDAA also included the largest ever military pay raise in history, with a 19.5% increase for junior enlisted troops and a 4.5% increase for others. So they're also increasing the wages, the pay that they will receive. And that is because they're trying to entice more people to come in, because as I mentioned, and we're going to be covering here in just a second, there is a massive shortfall in our armed forces for the United States. It also included funding for 2 new Virginia-class submarines and the establishment of drone forces within the U.S. Army, among other provisions. Now, the NDAA passed the House with a 217 to 199 vote, but it is unlikely to be taken up in the Senate. And here is why. And it is not because of the measure of the draft. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted the bill on Friday afternoon over its inclusion of amendments curbing funding for abortion, transgender medical care, and diversity efforts. He said, unsurprisingly, the legislation coming out of the House today is loaded with anti-LGBTQ+, anti-choice, anti-environment, and other divisive amendments guaranteed to not pass the Senate, Schumer said.
Yeah, so that's just business as usual. Everybody's trying to sneak their little part in there, see if they can't get a little extra. But it's going to pass. This is something that's going to happen. And the only time you see Congress come together, like they're working together, is because everybody knows. Oh yeah, we're going to war. That's everybody knows this, and so they're not really so much going to argue and fight. And it's not like the healthcare bill where you know you're down to the last man trying to get somebody to vote for something. Yeah, they're all going to vote for this, and there'll probably be that one guy that doesn't. And if he's lucky, I mean, if he's lucky, not us, but if he's lucky, this all goes to crap. And then he can say, I told you so. I was the one that didn't vote for it. I've seen that before. Anyway, yeah, so they're going to get this done. What this bill will ultimately look like before it hits any president's desk. The foundational stuff will be there. There will be a draft. I think the question really comes down to what part will women will be drafted. The question is, will they modify it, or are we going to be more like Israel? Women are just going to be in combat, and they better get over it. I expect a lot of women to complain about this, but of course, there's going to be a lot of women who want. I mean, you know, they want to be equal in everything, and so this is part of it. And you know, I have my personal assessments on all that, but um, I look at my daughter and I don't want her to be, you know, out there getting shot at. You know, that's not something that I would want. You know, so, and I'm sure there's a lot of men who feel the same way about their daughters. But like I said, there's a lot of capable women out there who want to serve their country, and so we'll see how this all pans out. But I got a feeling that part, um, yeah, that part will be kind of interesting. Um, But of course, all the, what do they call it, pork barrel stuff, the stuff they throw in there to try to see if they can get it to pass along with this bill, because they know this bill's going to pass. What if I could sneak this thing in there and nobody notices? It'll pass too. So everybody's posturing like that. So, I mean, we'll just, there's a lot to think about here. I'm old enough to remember that Vietnam War. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 23. He that shall endure the peril of that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith toward the Almighty. Know this, therefore, that they which are left behind are more blessed than they that be dead or are taken. So check that video out. Is it better to be taken or left behind? Turns out it's better to be left behind. Taken means something very sinister. You don't want to be taken. So anyway, I'll say farewell. I love you all so much, and thank you for continually supporting my content. If you did enjoy this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, and share this with your friends and family. I very much appreciate you all, and shout out to the channel members. I love you guys. Thank you for subscribing, and may everybody have a beautiful and blessed day who's in the body of Messiah Yahushua HaMashiach, colloquially called Jesus the Christ of Nazareth. And I'll see you on the next video. Shalom.